We are at Treetops, one of the more spectacular sites in Africa, where hundreds of animals come out of the forest below us to use this watering place. We thought this might be a good spot to ask Senator Kennedy to sum up the impressions of his African trip. You've held several question and answer sessions here in East Africa with students and political leaders.
Well, it's been most interesting. South Africa obviously was particularly interesting, but I enjoyed Tanzania, enjoyed particularly meeting with President Nyerere, and now that I'm in Kenya, I'm looking forward to meeting with President Kenyatta and then going on to Addis Ababa.
What do you expect that meeting with President Kenyatta to cover?
Well, I think that the issue that is people are most concerned about in East Africa is obviously Rhodesia, and the role that the black African is going to play in the future of Rhodesia, but really the future of this part of the world. I think that has an effect on what's going to happen in East Africa as a whole, and which direction perhaps East Africa is going to go in its future relationship with the United States and Great Britain. You'd be also interested in the political development in Kenya, the role that the young people are going to play, the difficulties that some of them are facing at the present time, even those with education, how they're going to fit into the political structure of Kenya. All of these matters will be are obviously matters of concern to the United States and in our relationship with Kenya.
Do you see President Kenyatta's policy of Harambee, black and white pulling together, as something that could provide a pattern for other parts of Africa?
Well, I do. Of course, the problems that each country faces are unique, and each one country has to work out its own future, and the answers or solutions, for instance, in the United States don't always apply to any one of the African countries, and the solutions that President Kenyatta has worked out here in Kenya might not apply to some of the other countries. But obviously this is the general direction that all of these countries wish to move in, and it's the kind of thing that if it would be accepted in South Africa, could be, of course, be most helpful and change the whole future of that part of the world and in its relationship with the rest of Africa.
Are you forming impressions of how the American image could be improved here in East Africa, where it apparently could stand considerable improvement?
Well, obviously, I think we have to take a greater interest. Our people have to know more about East Africa. I think it's difficult with Africa, the continent of Africa, breaking into many smaller units. It's difficult, I think, throughout the whole of the United States, when we have so many worries and concerns throughout the world, to know as much about the geography and the background, the history and the political development of some of these countries. But I think the greater knowledge that we have about East Africa, the better off we are. I think that the best thing that we have going in East Africa now is the Peace Corps, because it shows the interest of the United States and the United States people in the development of East Africa and these countries. I think that basically, after that, it's a question of developing what our role is going to be and toward countries such as Mozambique and Angola, which are still run by the Portuguese and therefore white dominated, even though the black African greatly numerically outnumbers the white man. Our role with the European countries when they are in conflict with the African countries, that also is going to be of great significance. And then our own internal development, the kind of things that we're able to accomplish within the United States, our race problems, are a matter of concern here in Africa, as it apparent that it would be. But whether we're going to be able, under our society and with our political development, to make the kind of progress that the rest of the African countries can look to. I think also urging the countries of East Africa to work together, to come closer together economically and politically, could also be most significant, most important. And our relationship with other countries, which they find it difficult to fit into the general pattern of what is happening here, and neighboring countries or in parts of the world which are where the dangers are more acute for them. So I think that where they feel there is an inconsistent direction of American policy, inconsistency in our morality, and what we say that we fight for and what we believe in, I think those are the more difficult things to deal with.
Do you think our Vietnam policy is hurting us seriously here in Africa, where, of course, many people believe that our motives are racial or colonial?
Well, I think there's a good deal of thought amongst the more literate of the people who live in East Africa, and I would think that amongst them it is very damaging. I would say once again, even more important, however, for them than Vietnam is what we are willing to do, what we're going to be prepared to do about Rhodesia, and what we're going to be prepared to do about these other countries which are still colonies of some of our allies in NATO.
Senator, thank you very much.
Bob, look at the elephant.
Yeah, delightful. This is Bob Clark, ABC at Treetops.